First of all, you have to share responsibilities for child raising. Traditionally, the husbands go to work, wear the pants, the wives stay at home, have the babies, take care of the babies. And it's true that women are better and have a better touch with children. But the situation today is different, and the men can make the effort. If husbands leave everything to the wives, or the women are forced to choose between working or having a baby, they're going to go on baby strike. So the husband has to share duties at home. I was discussing this with some MPs, including a lady MP, and I said, nowadays I see men carrying babies in the markets when they go out. So she says, you think carrying babies is enough? Well, you got to wake up at night, feed the baby, change the nappies. I used to change nappies in the days before Pampers. So you actually got to fold the cloth, you got to put it on, you got to put the safety pin. I haven't pricked any baby yet. If I can do it, that means anybody can do it. And I think that you have to change these attitudes. We can't change these mindsets by making speeches, but I think we can shift the ethos, the spirit. Maybe in schools, when it comes to domestic science, we must teach the boys also some of these skills. Try to influence them to have the right expectations and share the responsibility. But in terms of things we can do, in terms of incentives, I think there are a couple of small things. We introduced childcare leave a few years ago, which can be claimed by either parent. It's now only 2 days a year. I think we can push this to 6 days a year. I see the women are cheering. The men ought to cheer too. We will introduce one new thing. 1 week unpaid infant care leave per year, either parent, until the child turns 2 years old. So first 2 years, if you need your infant to go for inoculation or some emergency, well, you can take some time off. This is the first thing I learned from the ladies. The second thing is that we must have a good work-life balance. You must have flexible work arrangements so that it's easier for women to have both, to work and to have children. And you must have family-friendly employers who will make this happen, so that they make the practical arrangements, and their attitude when you go, they don't make a sour face and they don't make you feel a little black mark recorded in your annual confidential report. It makes a big difference, and with a bit of effort and imagination, you can do a lot. You can provide nursing rooms so that mothers who are lactating can express the milk and store the bottles. You can allow telecommuting and be flexible about it, so long as the work is done. In fact, one company I know of actually allowed one employee to go all the way to Australia with her husband and telecommute from Australia and continue to be paid and do the work. And then she came back and she resumed her job. You can find ways around having them physically present. So one catering company, which has a lot of outdoor catering over weekends, outside catering, supplied their staff with walkie-talkies and with BlackBerries, so that they don't have to be physically there, they can be with their family, they can go out, but they can keep an eye on the catering arrangements, make sure things don't go wrong. I think such employers we should recognize and thank publicly. And MOM and MCYS will make a special effort to do that. The government will help to share some of this burden of the employers. For example, with maternity leave, we used to be 8 weeks. We extended this by 4 weeks. Now it's 12, and the extra 4 weeks, the government was paying. And I think it has been very much welcomed by people. So now about 3/4 of women actually take 12 weeks maternity leave. But if you ever manage a baby, you will know that actually 12 weeks is not very long. So I think what we should do is to increase it to 16 weeks. And this last 4 weeks, I think we give some flexibility. Don't make it necessarily all at the beginning. It can be any time in the first year, and the government pays for this 4 weeks also. But I would say, whatever the leave arrangements and what the government carries, ultimately, the woman or the man must make a personal choice. Do you work 110% on your career? Or do you set aside time for other activities for a balanced life? I think each person has to decide his or her own point of balance. I remember my own experience. I'm a beneficiary of this. My mother was a lawyer, but every day she came home to have lunch with us. So every day we come home from school, 3 of us, my mother is there, we have lunch. Nowadays you would call it quality time. This was before people invented such big words. All it meant was she had time for us, we had time to talk to her. And it was a tremendous help. She avoided going out at night for functions. She had to go for accompanying my father, but business functions very seldom. What it meant is less takings as a lawyer, less work, less conveyancing. But she decided that children were more important to her. And she acted on that, and I think she was happy with that. And we are definitely very grateful for that. Today, it's harder to do this. The office hours are longer. The pace is more intense. People call them office hours. You must put quotes there, because it starts in the morning but doesn't finish after dinner. And at home you're working, on holidays you're working too, on email or BlackBerry or whatever. But despite this, I think you have to maintain a balanced, fulfilling life, and you have to keep a pace which is sustainable, not just for 1-2 years and you burn out, but for a lifetime, and you are in balance, equilibrium, and at the end of your life, or when you retire, you say, I'm satisfied. I've had a good career, I've taken care of my family, I've brought up children. This is what life is about. Work-life balance also applies to the children. I know a lot of parents complain about stress on their children, and especially complain because they say the education system causes the stress. We've trimmed the school syllabi, teach less, learn more. But parents are still sending children. They want their children to do that extra little bit more. So enrichment classes, tuition classes, all sorts of programs. And before exams, they feed the children chicken essence. So I see advertisements for chicken essence with kids in school uniforms prominently displayed outside schools. I think some pressure is inevitable. It's part of Singapore's competitive spirit. Other East Asian societies are even more ruthlessly competitive. You look at the Koreans with their cram schools, or the Japanese, they have jukus, I think they call them. The Hong Kongers. I just read one article about the Koreans. They go there, they inspect your bag. No frivolous magazines, no handphones, no lipstick. You go in, no making friends with boys and girls. It's like a prison. And every day they have 1 hour of rest. Every week they have 2 hours on the weekend to get into the right university. We are not like that. We have some stress, but we should manage it. We should take it in our stride. It's natural for parents to worry about children and to encourage them to work hard and do better. But we also need to understand them, to know that every child has different aptitudes, different talents, to give them space to grow up, to let them learn and mature in their own time. Press them to do better, but also know them and let them develop the way their nature inclines them to develop. In many directions. It may not be academic, maybe sports, maybe arts, maybe music, but let them go with their nature. Third thing which I learned from the women is about the financial cost of having kids. Actually, I didn't need to learn this from women. I knew this. It's a significant expense to bring up children. First, the direct child-raising expenses. The milk powder, the pram, the pediatrician. All those things cost money. But On top of the direct costs, you also have to think about the opportunity costs for working mothers particularly, and for professional mothers especially. Because when you are, what do I mean by opportunity costs? When the mother is working, she's earning money. When she's looking after the child and she has to work less or less intensively, she has to forego some income there to look after the child. So her income has come down some. So that's called an opportunity cost. Less work, sacrifice to their careers. And that is why often it's the professional women, the most successful ones, who say that it is expensive to bring up children. So paradoxically, the lower income women feel less opportunity costs, but the higher income women feel it so and say so. Financial considerations cannot be the motive for having children. I think if you suggest to a couple that, I give you a bit of discount, how about having more kids? I think many will be very indignant at this, and rightly so. But it's right for us to help women to lighten the burden of having children. And that's why we had the baby bonus. That's why we had the tax incentives. And we will enhance these schemes. I don't have the details tonight, so you watch the next installment. But for the baby bonus, we will improve it for the first-time parents. For the tax incentives, we will do more in order to encourage mothers to work. The fourth thing which the women asked me to focus on are early childhood arrangements. This is a major concern of parents, especially if both parents are working. The critical period is from birth to 6 years when they go to school. Because after they've gone to school, they're in primary one, well, they're mostly taken care of, and also a little bit bigger, able to look after themselves. But before they reach school, the first 6 years, those are critical. And you want to have that peace of mind that they're being looked after well. Most families take care of children at home. Either the grandparents keep an eye on them, or they have extended family, or they have maids. But many working mothers depend on formal childcare arrangements. And 1/4 of children of this age are in childcare centers. And the most popular centers have got queues. You wait 1 year, sometimes more, before you get in. So I visited one, NTUC Childcare in Jurong, which is one of the popular ones. I'm very impressed with what they were doing. Talked to some of the parents who came in the evening to pick their kids up and to meet me. And they were very happy to have their kids there. Good environment, they were socialized, they learned skills, social skills, dancing, they were preparing for National Day, they were making models, learning to interact with other kids, get along with other kids. And the parents had peace of mind while they were working. So I think that we should do more to build up the childcare sector. It's important. I think we should do 3 things. Make it more accessible. That means more centers. Make it more affordable. That means bigger subsidies per child. And that make it higher quality, raise the standard, so that we can work with this. So that way we will have a better quality childcare center, and we will be able to work. The kindergartens are another thing which we must do to improve. Not everybody goes to childcare center, but nearly everybody goes to kindergarten. And we have a very lively kindergarten sector in Singapore. At the high end, I think they can look after themselves. At the middling end, mass market, the PAP Community Foundation Centers, standards have improved, but I think they can do better. I think that we should put a lot more effort into enhancing the kindergarten sector as well, because it's important for our kids to have a good kindergarten preparation when they go to school. You don't want the kindergartens to be a preschool. So when you go to primary one, you're already pressured. Before you reach primary one, you have pre-pressured. You have competition to get into the kindergarten, but you want a good kindergarten environment. And I think that we should be able to do that. We've got already government spending money on the kindergartens. because qualifying institutions are getting subventions and help from MOE. I think we should push this up substantially so that we can raise the standard, we can raise not just better teachers, which we are doing, we can have better syllabuses, better run institutions, higher quality environment, so that kids grow up much more confident, and particularly for those whose backgrounds aren't so ideal at home, they will be able to make it in kindergarten and start from a more equal starting point when they go to school. This is a big move. We have deliberated this over a long time. We didn't decide because our cut-off point was at primary 1. I think our cut-off point mainly should still be at primary 1, but we should begin to do more before kids reach primary 1 so that we can prepare them for life and for school. Those are 4 big things which we need to do.